Sophie Mitchell was wiping down tray tables in business class when she heard a choked sob. Row 7, window seat. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, with a silk hair ribbon and patent leather shoes that probably cost more than Sophie's monthly rent. Alone. Tears streamed silently down her porcelain cheeks as she clutched a stuffed white rabbit. Sophie had been working Seoul-to-LAX flights for 2 years. She knew that look. The desperate effort not to make a scene. The trembling chin of a child taught that emotions were weakness. "Hey, sweetheart." Sophie crouched down, making herself small. "What's wrong?" The girl's eyes, dark, impossibly deep, met hers. "Halmeini," she whispered in Korean, then switched to English. "My grandmother. She won't wake up." Sophie's heart stopped. She looked past the child to the aisle seat where an elegant elderly woman sat, head tilted back, skin gray. Sophie's fingers found the woman's pulse. Faint, irregular, cardiac episode, maybe. She hit the call button 3 times, the emergency signal. "What's your name?" Sophie asked the girl, keeping her voice steady. "Min-seo. Park Min-seo." The child's English was perfect, British accented. "Is Halmeini going to die like did?" The question landed like a punch. "No," Sophie said, with a certainty she didn't feel. "No, she's not. But I need you to be very brave for me. Okay?" The co-pilot appeared with the AED. Sophie worked with the crew, administering oxygen, monitoring vitals, while Min-seo watched with those ancient eyes that had already seen too much loss. And then, as the grandmother's breathing stabilized, Min-seo's small hand slipped into Sophie's, and didn't let go. For the remaining 4 hours of the flight, through the medical emergency, through coordination with ground medical teams, Min-seo held onto Sophie's hand like a lifeline. When crew members tried to take her to sit with her family in economy, she screamed. The only English word she would say, "Sophie, Sophie, Sophie." So Sophie stayed, sitting on the floor beside her, telling stories about California, about the ocean, about anything to keep those eyes from drowning in fear. When the plane finally landed, paramedics rushed the grandmother out. Min-seo's family swarmed forward. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all designer luggage and sharp looks. But Min-seo clung to Sophie's neck, refused to be peeled away. That's when the grandmother opened her eyes on the stretcher. Weak, barely conscious, she saw her granddaughter wrapped around this American flight attendant. Saw the way Min-seo's breathing had finally calmed. Saw something that made her raise one trembling hand and speak in Korean to the family members crowding around. Sophie didn't understand the words, but she understood the shocked silence that followed. An uncle stepped forward, his English crisp. "My mother says you saved her life. She says Min-seo has chosen you. She wants to know if you'll come home with us." Sophie laughed. It was absurd. "I'm sorry, what?" "She says," the uncle continued, his expression unreadable, "that Min-seo lost her mother 6 months ago. Since then, she hasn't spoken to anyone outside the family, hasn't smiled, hasn't slept through the night. But you," he looked at Min-seo, still wrapped around Sophie. "You she trusts." "I'm just a flight attendant," Sophie whispered. The grandmother was being loaded into the ambulance, but her eyes stayed locked on Sophie's face. She spoke again, stronger now, and the uncle translated. "She says the Park family doesn't forget kindness. She says her granddaughter needs a mother, and fate brought you to seat 7A today. She's asking if you'll consider staying in Los Angeles with Min-seo, with us." Min-seo pulled back, looked into Sophie's eyes, and said in a small, broken voice, "Please don't leave me too." Everyone leaves. Sophie's heart cracked open. She thought of her own life. A studio apartment, no family since her parents died. Relationships that never lasted because she was always flying away. The loneliness of hotel rooms in foreign cities. She thought of this child's hand in hers, and how it felt like being needed, like being chosen. "I don't understand what you're asking," Sophie managed. The uncle's expression softened. "My mother is Park Hye-jin, the Park family. We're influential in Seoul. She's proposing that you become Min-seo's legal guardian. We'd sponsor your visa, provide everything you need. But you'd have to leave this life. Come to Korea. Become one of us. You're asking me to give up everything for a child I met 4 hours ago? No. The grandmother had sat up on the stretcher. She spoke in English now, heavily accented but clear. I'm asking if you want to belong somewhere. To someone. I saw how you looked at her. Like she's already yours. If you're still with us, drop a like right now. And comment below. Are you Team Sophie or Team, this is crazy? Sophie's eyes burned. Because it was true. Somehow impossibly true. My family will fight this, the uncle said. They'll say you're a fortune hunter. An outsider. They'll make your life hell if you say yes. And if I say no? Min-seo's grip tightened. Please. I dreamed about you. Before Amma died. She told me an angel would come. You smell like her perfume. You have her smile. Sophie looked at this child, this stranger who felt like destiny. Her supervisor was calling her name. The family was watching. The grandmother's hand extended, waiting. I have one question, Sophie said. Why me? Really? The grandmother's smile was sad and knowing. Because Min-seo's mother was adopted too, an orphan I took in, and she became my daughter more truly than any blood could make. I know I have chosen love when I see it. The question is, do you? Min-seo's hand in hers. The weight of it. The rightness. Sophie looked at her supervisor. I quit. The words fell like stones into water, creating ripples that would change everything. The uncle's eyes widened. You don't have to decide now. Yes, I do. Sophie met her grandmother's gaze. Because if I walk away to think about it, I'll talk myself out of the most insane, beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. So yes, I'll come to Korea. I'll fight your family. I'll learn your language. You'll be her Amma, the grandmother finished. If you're brave enough. Sophie picked up Min-seo, held her close, and felt the child's heartbeat sync with her own. I'm terrified, Sophie admitted. Good, the grandmother said. Love should terrify you. It means you understand what you're risking. As the ambulance pulled away, Sophie whispered into Min-seo's hair. I've got you. I promise. And Min-seo whispered back. I know. You're my angel. You came. The uncle handed Sophie a business card. Welcome to the Park family. For better or worse. Sophie looked at the card. At Min-seo. At the life she'd just abandoned and the one she'd blindly chosen. Worse first, I'm guessing? He smiled grimly. Always. But Min-seo was smiling for the first time in 6 months. And Sophie decided that some wars were worth fighting. The plane touched down in Seoul at 6:47 a.m. local time. Sophie walked through Incheon Airport with Min-seo's hand in hers, part of a procession of 12 Park family members who moved through the terminal like visiting royalty. People stared and whispered, Is that Park Hye-jin? Who's the foreign woman? The uncle Sang-woo appeared at her elbow. Welcome to Korea, Ms. Mitchell. Fair warning, you're about to become very famous. The Park family owns Park Shipping. We control 40% of container traffic in and out of Busan. When we make moves, people notice. Nobody said anything about the press. You're a foreign woman suddenly granted guardianship of the heir's only child. It's a story. Min-seo tugged on Sophie's hand. Amma was supposed to run the company when Halmeani got too old. Now I'm supposed to when I grow up. But Uncle Sang-woo wants it instead. She said it matter-of-factly, like a corporate succession drama was normal dinner conversation. The Park estate was not a house. It was a compound. Traditional Hanok architecture blended with modern glass and steel. Gardens, a koi pond, buildings that house staff quarters, a private library, a tea house. Hye-jin called Sophie to her study. We need to be honest with each other. Sophie sat, feeling completely out of place in her rumpled flight attendant uniform. I brought you here for Min-seo, Hye-jin began. But there are complications you need to understand. My son wants company. Ji-won was my heir. I trained her for 20 years. When she died, she left Min-seo as the next heir. A 5-year-old. That's insane. That's tradition. I have 5 years, maybe 10. Long enough to train her, prepare her. You're putting the weight of an empire on a 5-year-old, Sophie said, anger rising. She needs therapy and love and time to be a kid, not corporate training. I agree, which is why I brought you here. You're her shield. You'll protect her from the family politics while I handle the business side. You'll be the mother I can't afford to be. This is too much. I thought I was signing up to help raise a kid, not navigate a corporate drama. They're the same thing in this family. You can leave. I'll arrange a flight back tonight. But you should know what you're walking away from. Sophie turned. What do you mean? Min-seo will grow up surrounded by people who see her as a chess piece. Sang-woo will sideline her, minimize her. She'll have everything money can buy and nothing that actually matters. Unless she has you. Unless she has someone who loves her for herself, not for what she represents. Sophie thought about Min-seo's face when she smiled. The child's hand in hers. The trust that shouldn't exist but did. I need a drink, she muttered. Hye-jin laughed. You know what? I like you. You have a spine. You'll need it. Comment below. What would you do in Sophie's situation? Would you stay or run? 3 days in the park house had been a crash course in culture shock. The language barrier was worse than expected. The food was amazing but overwhelming. The family dynamics were a minefield. Sang-woo barely spoke to her except to issue veiled warnings. His wife, Mija, was cold but correct. Their children had been forbidden from playing with Min-seo. But Min-seo stuck to Sophie like glue. Slept in her room, held her hand everywhere, taught her Korean words with the patience of a tiny professor. After 2 hours of linguistic torture with Teacher Park, a 70-year-old former diplomat with militant teaching methods, Sophie and Min-seo walked through the garden. Min-seo pointed out the koi fish. That's Ariel. That's Belle. That's Mulan. She's my favorite because she's a fighter. Min-seo. Sang-woo appeared on the path. We need to talk about your education. It's time you return to regular school. No. The word came out flat. It's not up for discussion. I said no. Min-seo's voice was rising. The kids there were mean. They said I killed Amma. They said I'm bad luck. She said no, Sophie interrupted. And she's 5. Maybe let her heal before you shove her back into an environment that traumatized her. Sang-woo's eyes went cold. You've been here 3 days. You don't understand our culture. I understand trauma. I understand a kid who watched her mother die and needs time to process that. This is not your decision. Actually, Hye-jin's voice cut across the garden. It is. I gave Sophie guardianship rights. If she says Min-seo stays home, Min-seo stays home. The argument escalated into rapid Korean. Sophie had just made an enemy. Week 2. The family dinner. Hye-jin announced a formal family dinner. 27 Park family members gathered, all watching Sophie in her borrowed hanbok. Each family member stood, introduced themselves, made comments about Sophie's presence that ranged from welcoming to hostile. Mija was particularly pointed. It's so unusual for mother to take in strays, but I suppose she has a history of that. Sophie smiled. I suppose kindness runs in the family. Then came the questions. How long do you plan to stay? As long as I'm needed. Do you understand our customs? I'm learning. What makes you qualified to raise a park heir? Love. And the fact that she asked me to. An elderly uncle stood up. What do you know about our family business? Nothing, Sophie admitted. But I'm not here for business. I'm here for Min-seo. And if Min-seo's future is the business, then I'll make sure she has a childhood first and a career later. In that order. The uncle smiled. I like this one, Hye-jin. She has sense. Small victory. Until a drunk cousin decided to speak. So the American thinks she can just waltz in and become Korean. I think she understands us. I think she can replace Ji-won. The table went silent. Sophie set down her spoon carefully. I don't think any of those things. I know I'm not Korean. I know I can't replace Min-seo's mother. But I'm here anyway, because she needed someone and I happen to be that someone. If that bothers you, I'm sorry. But I'm not leaving. You will. When you realize how hard this is. Enough. Hye-jin's voice cracked like a whip. Apologize or leave. He left. After dinner, Min-seo crawled into Sophie's lap. Was that scary? Terrifying. You did good. Amma would have liked you. She liked brave people. You're brave. 6 weeks in, Sang-woo summoned Sophie to his office. Mother's health is deteriorating. The doctors give her 3 years, maybe less. I've prepared a proposal to amend the succession plan. I'll serve as CEO until Min-seo turns 25. That gives her 20 years to mature. I need you to support it. And is it in Min-seo's best interest? Sang-woo's expression hardened. You think I'm trying to steal from a child? I'm trying to protect the company. Or you'll make yourself so indispensable that no one will want to replace you. Even in 20 years. You don't know anything about business. No. But I know about power. And I know when someone's justifying taking it. She left before he could respond. That evening, Hye-jin called Sophie to her study. Sang-woo told me about your conversation. You did exactly right. Hye-jin pulled out legal documents. When I die, you'll become Min-seo's legal guardian and trustee of her shares. 51% of Park Shipping. You'll have final say on all major decisions. Sophie stared. I don't know anything about running a company. You don't have to run it. But you'll protect Min-seo's interests. This means you can never leave. Once I'm gone, if you walk away, Min-seo loses everything. You're the only thing standing between her and a corporate coup. You're asking me to dedicate my life to this. I'm asking if you love her enough to stay, even when it gets hard. Because that's what Min-seo needs. Someone who won't leave. Sophie thought about her parents, dead in an instant, about every relationship she'd run from. She thought about Min-seo's hand in hers. Yes, Sophie said. I'll stay. I'll protect her. That night, Sophie signed papers that bound her to Min-seo's future. Legal guardianship. Trustee status. She was 28 years old, and she'd just become responsible for a child and a corporate empire. Min-seo patted in, wrapped her arms around Sophie's waist. I had a good dream. You were in it. We were at the beach building castles. Can we go to the beach someday? Yeah, kid. We can go to the beach. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're rooting for Sophie. Min-seo started calling Sophie Amma on a Tuesday in February. They were making kimchi fried rice together. Min-seo was standing on a stool, carefully cracking eggs. Amma, did I do it right? She asked, not looking up. Sophie froze. Min-seo, you don't have to. I want to. Is that okay? The child's eyes were uncertain, scared of rejection. Yeah. Sophie managed through the lump in her throat. It's okay. It's perfect. Min-seo beamed. Okay, Amma. The words settled around Sophie like a cloak. Heavy, sacred, terrifying. She wasn't replacing G1. But she was becoming something new, Min-seo's chosen mother. For months in, Min-seo asked to visit her mother's grave. They brought flowers, incense to the beautiful hillside cemetery. Min-seo was quiet for a long time, staring at the headstone. I talk to Amma sometimes. In my head. Is that weird? No, sweetheart. It's not weird. I told her about you. I think she's happy you're here. Min-seo paused. She was funny and smart, and she sang terribly but loudly. And she always knew when I was sad. She sounds wonderful. She was. Min-seo's voice broke. But she left me, and I was so mad at her. For dying. For leaving me alone. And then Halmini got sick on the plane, and I thought everyone was going to leave, and I was so scared. She was crying now, full body sobs. Sophie pulled her close. And then you came, Min-seo continued, and you stayed. Even though everything's hard. Even though the family's mean sometimes. Even though I'm... Stop, Sophie said firmly. You're not unlucky. You're not bad. You're a kid who lost her mom. And that's terrible. But it's not your fault. Min-seo hugged her tight. Then she turned back to the grave. Amma, this is Sophie. She's my Amma now too. Is that okay? Can I have two? The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of cherry blossoms. Sophie didn't believe in ghosts or signs. But sitting there holding this child, she thought, maybe that's okay. 6 months. The first victory. Min-seo's first smile after the plane had been a victory. Her first laugh had been a victory. Her first full night without nightmares had been a victory. But the biggest victory came when Min-seo asked to go back to school. Are you sure? Sophie asked. There's no rush. I'm sure. I want to make friends. I want to be normal. They found a progressive school with a kind principal who understood Min-seo's history. On Min-seo's first day, Sophie was more nervous than the child. What if the kids are mean? Sophie fretted. Then I'll ignore them. Like you taught me. What if you're scared? Then I'll remember you're coming back. You always come back. The simple faith in those words destroyed Sophie. Min-seo came home that afternoon chattering about a girl named Hye-jin, about art class, about making a friend named Hannah. She said I talk funny because I speak too much English. I said she talks funny because she can't speak English at all. Then we decided we'd teach each other. She's my best friend now. 6 months ago, this child had been mute in public. Now she had a best friend. Sophie called her friend Maria that night. I think we're going to be okay. Of course you are. You're Sophie Mitchell. You survive everything. I'm not surviving. I'm living. There's a difference. Sophie stood in the garden, watching Min-seo chase Hannah around the koi pond. Both girls were shrieking with laughter, completely unself-conscious in their joy. Hye-jin appeared beside her, moving slowly. The cancer had been confirmed aggressive terminal. She had a year, maybe less. Thank you, the old woman said. For what? For giving her childhood back. To make her happy. She did the hard part. I just showed up. You did more than show up. You stayed. Sophie thought about the past year. The language lessons that were finally paying off. The family dinners where she was slowly being accepted. Sang-woo, who'd achieved something like respect for her. She thought about Min-seo's nightmares, which still came but less frequently. About the child's laugh. About being called Amma, and how it had started feeling right. I got my citizenship application approved, Sophie said. Permanent resident status. Korea's home now. Good. Min-seo needs you here. I need her too. Turns out being needed is pretty great. Min-seo ran over, breathless. Amma, Hannah wants to know if she can sleep over this weekend. Can she? Please. Sure. Sweetheart. Yes. Min-seo pumped her fist, then ran back to Hannah. Hye-jin laughed. You've created a monster. A happy monster. I'll take it. That night, Sophie pulled out her journal. Letters she was writing to Min-seo for when she was older. Dear Min-seo, you asked me today if I ever regret getting on that plane. The answer is no. Never. Not once. When I met you, I was lost. I'd spent my whole life running from anything permanent because I was scared of losing it. And then you grabbed my hand and refused to let go. And I learned that the scary thing isn't loving people. It's not loving them. You saved me, sweet girl. You gave me a purpose bigger than survival. You gave me a family. Being your Amma is the greatest privilege of my life. Not because you're perfect. You're not, and neither am I. But because you're mine, and I'm yours, and that's enough. When Halmini dies, I'll be here. When you struggle with the company, I'll be here. When you fall in love, when you have kids, when you make mistakes and have victories, I'll be here. Because you taught me what it means to stay. And I'm never leaving. Love, your Amma. Sophie closed the journal and went to check on Min-seo. The child was sprawled across the mattress, stuffed rabbit clutched tight, a small smile on her face. Sophie kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams, my star. Min-seo mumbled, Love you, Amma. Love you too. And Sophie meant it. More than she'd ever meant anything. She'd gotten on a plane to Seoul a year ago and had no idea she was flying toward her destiny. But here she was. Home. Finally home. If you've made it this far, you're officially part of the Novatales TV family. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Smash that like. And comment below telling us, where are you watching from? What was your favorite moment? Should we create more stories like this? Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Remember, every great story starts with a single choice. What choice will you make today? This has been a Novatales TV original. See you in the next story.